Alrighty. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic less known classics. This is episode number 2569, Doubleshot 2463. Well, this one basically is still, here's the thing about these two books here. They're two books with stuff written by Peter David, but this first book kind of wraps up his brief run on this book, and the other one still continues the run. We have X Factor Epic Collection, Volume 8, X-Animations. Collect issues 84 to 100 for the series, and number 8. The writing here, for the most part, for issues 84-89, is done by Peter David. The rest, of course, now your Scott Lobdell, he takes the book very briefly. Like, I think he took over issue 90. I think he left for about 94, I think it was. And then J. Matthias basically took from that point forward. We're also Skip Diaz, Scott, Shauna David, and Joe Quesada. And Joe Quesada basically did some artwork here, too. With Chris Batista, Buzz, Jay Lee, Jane Durma, Terry Schumacher, Paul Ryan, George Newsick, and Cliff Mentor. The book, basically, the issues here came out from November 1992 and concluded in March of 1994. Yep, we're getting really close to wrapping up the first volume. Yes, very, very close. Now, I'll reveal basically how much is left to go for this volume when I finish talking about this trade here. Now, mostly put issues 85-86 are part of the Executioner Song crossover, which I have kind of discussed this already, so I'm going to move on from that. Issues 87-89 basically deal with the aftermath of this crossover. That's most of what it is here, and also the fact that Ford attempts to join the roster at this point in time, and Quicksilver quits the team. And also he spends time with his wife, Crystal. Yep. Yeah, his wife, Crystal, who he somehow finds out that she's been cheating on him, and beats up the guy basically who dares to blackmail him over it. And they go home. And there's also stuff in here related to stuff with Genosha, where there's a group of ex-patriots will take him home, and of course they did with Genosha magistrates for a few issues. This is, I think, when Scott Lobdell leaves and J. Matthias takes on board. And then from like the last several issues in here deals with a woman named Haven, which this is a historic that starts with issues like 96 and includes issue 100, which involves like trickster stuff. Pretty interesting stuff here. The annual itself, one thing interesting about the annual is one of the stories in there where Havoc is trying to get into a meeting with Forge. And he keeps getting the runaround like, oh, he's in the meeting, he's busy. So basically he just barges into his office and demands some explanations. Like, number one, why wasn't X Factor involved with the Blood Ties crossover? Yes, in story there was no reason why. He's like, oh, I'm holding them back because that's something that doesn't involve us, per se. And also, there's also a thing he didn't mention about the computers not working because, oh, that's funded by the House Committee. Like, is the writers of this annual basically poking fun of the U.S. Congress with this book? Oh, by the way, the opening story, last one by Peter David. The second story, Skip Diaz, the one he writes. And he also writes the backup story, too. Yeah. Is the end terrible? No. It just basically, we have Peter David leave, and of course, Lobdell comes on board very briefly, and then JMT at 6 was right at this point forward. Really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I do have to reveal the reason why Peter David left. Now, I have read for a while now, I read this arc a while ago, it does exist, that the reason why he left, because he was getting sick and tired of having his book be tie-ins to crossovers. He had to quit this book twice. But that's the reason why he left. He got fed up with basically constantly having to do so many freaking crossovers. Like, Execution Song was the last one he worked on. Yes. And if you're really curious, like, how many crossovers did this book take part of? Like, I think the reason why he quit, because I think they're coming way too quickly. Like, Because also there was Fatal Attractions. That was the next crossover that came right after this one, and he was not involved with the story at all. Though I have heard one of the big plot points of the story was the fact that Wolverine's adamantium skeleton was ripped out of his body for his tours by Magneto. Peter David said that was actually his idea. Yep. So the constantness of the crossovers. This is pretty much, in a way, what drove him from X Factor. Yes, the constant thing. And it seems as though, like, maybe also he had disagreements with editors when it comes to this book, because it seems like they're like, oh, it's like, let's see, a fresh, new direction. And if you're really curious, what was the first issue to be part of a crossover? The first time this happened was he kind of had a crossover with Incredible Hulk as part of the War and Pieces storyline. Yep. A story arc that started there and continued in Hulk for a few issues before X Factor got moved over back to their own book. Yeah. But that was not the thing here. That was just a minor crossover. But if you're really curious, what was the first time, basically, they actually did a crossover? The first time I'm looking at it right now, basically the first time in the book. Well, in a way, I think like the first time he ever actually did a crossover was Execution. I think he just got burned out from the book, and because he was also doing Incredible Hulk at the time, so he had 2 crossovers with this book. He just basically was suffering from, well, fatigue from doing crossovers because he had to do so many of them. And in case you're curious, though, the annuals when it comes to X Factor, did any of them time crossovers? Excuse me. The annuals he worked on. 7 did. Yep, 7 did. Yeah, 7 was an annual, but Fabian Caesar wrote that one, so he wrote the opening story, he wrote the second story of that one. Yep. Maybe just going through burnout. Now, sadly put, X Factor would have one more annual published after this one. Yes, one more annual. And you're thinking, really? Yes, really. Yep, just one more annual, and that is it. Now, if you really Liddell, basically, like I mentioned, he was in the book very, very briefly. How long did Matthias stay on board the book? Matthias, as he pronounced himself. He actually leaves not long after within the very next book. His run is very, very brief. Like, it is like 13 issues in an annual. And that's it. Then it's taken over by Todd DeZanko. Because it seems like basically like, oh, the writers can only be in this book for like 1 year and then we have to leave for reasons. Not sure why, though. The guy who succeeded Todd DeZanko, he was in the book very briefly, too. He was in the book for maybe 7 issues. Like, really? Though the guy who eventually succeeded in the book, he was also, let's see, that's X-Force. I have to find out exactly who succeeded him, but yeah, it just seems like that's a problem with X Factor at this point in time. It seems like, oh, we can't keep book on here right here more than a year, and we have to get removed from the book for reasons. Does the storytelling suffer because of it? From what I can tell, I think this book went through, like, in this short set of books, in 16 issues. Like, they finished Peter David, we have a brief run with Scott Lobdell, we have a run with we start the run with, we go through actually almost the entire run of J. Matthias in one book, and plus the annual. I don't think the storytelling suffers because of it. I highly doubt it. Though they do get they have it where they actually get new uniforms, yes. But I don't think so. No, one thing I do appreciate about this Epic Collection is that it does explain what happens between issues. Yep. But I'm going to give this Epic Collection roughly a I'll give it 9 out of 10. It's actually pretty good. Next up we have is the penultimate Marvel Visionaries for Incredible Hulk. Yes, this is the second to last one because here's the strange thing though. After Volume 8, Marvel stopped publishing these things for no reason. Yeah, I've never heard the exact reason why. Like, I heard that there was a joke about this. I heard about this years ago. Marvel would start a trade series like this, and they would stop after basically like around like 8, 9 volumes. It's like they don't want the trades to get double digits. Yet the joke is Deadpool Classic can have a lot of volumes, but not books like this. Not really. So this book collects issues 83 to 89, annual 17. Yes. Peter David is main writer for most of these issues. Now, 89 co-does it with Tom Field. Artwork by John Romita Sr., not Jr., Sr., Dale Cohen, Ron Wagner, and Gary Berker. Yep, that's your writer here for these issues. Now, one thing interesting about this book. My gosh, that answers the damn phone. You're thinking 3, yeah, that's like not very long. It's like 7 issues plus an annual, which is indeed true. Now, we briefly had Rick Jones apparently die in these issues, in this first issue, though he comes back just a couple issues later. Though, the big character in these issues is the Abomination. Yeah, he's actually in like a good chunk of this. Yeah, he's actually here basically for 383, 384, and 393. He comes back in 393. He was only here for like 2 issues, and he pops up in annual 17. But yeah, in the main book, this is something quite interesting about him. Like, after 393, he's only in like next 3 annuals. No, seriously, that's basically what helps him. Yeah, and the whole thing with issue 384 is it's tying to an Infinity Gauntlet. Yes. Now, if you're really curious, like, the Infinity Gauntlet crossover for these issues here for Incredible Hulk. It's only just 2 issues. It's 384 and 385. Yep, just a couple quick issues. Yeah, Rick Jones comes back after being dead very briefly. And of course, basically the Pantheon. We also have Sebra here too. Sebra. Let's see. She is a character who, I think she's a really superhero. She actually made her first appearance issue 256. So she's a recurring character for this book. And yeah, she's been like when she returned in these issues here. This first time she appeared in the book is 279, and she's only here for 2 issues and moves over to here for the New Warriors. Yep, and the Pantheon apparently are now supporting characters in this book. Yep, they've been recurring characters since like 368, and they're back here from 383 to basically 388. Yeah, Hulk is basically working. They do skip 1 issue in here, 384, but yeah, they're here for this point forward for quite a while. And of course, we're on a spaceship, and of course, we're on with Betty, and there's also these villains called the Greater Rabin. Yeah, she's only around for a couple appearances. She's here for 3, 6, 3, 7, yeah. It's basically her and look like her brother. Yeah, these 2 guys appear just for a couple issues, and then that's it. The annual itself basically is probably a Subterranean Wars crossover, which Yeah, the opening story is basically just deals with a kid named Jeffrey, and the Hulk appears in the next story. The things that Rick Jones for a book. If you're curious about Submarine Wars, it's mostly put basically crossover involving moment people. That's mostly what the annual is. Mm-hmm. And then 388 basically involves take on a character named Speed Freak in his debut appearance. Yes, this is Speed Freak's debut appearance. Yeah, and he's here. After this issue, he just returns to 429. You know something shocking about this character? About Speed Freak? Did you know he's dead? Yeah, he's dead. He got killed off in Civil War #1. Yeah, no, he appears in our books related to Civil War, but probably like flashback or something during the issue. But yeah, Speed Freak is dead. It's like Mark Millar brought this character back just to kill him off. Yeah, basically, like, after this, he only appears like 2 more times before his death. Really? Yes, really. Pops up in 420 and 430, and I don't think I've covered those books, have I? Let me take a quick look out here for that one. No, I haven't covered those issues yet, but basically, those are covered in the future. Don't worry about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Speed Freak, Mr. Lang. He's just a one-shot character. And then finally, 389 is basically like, well, deals with Hulk, take on the Man-Thing, and a creature named Glob, who appears with 1 issue. Yeah, and this is actually a fill-in issue. Peter David doesn't read this one. Oh, no, he doesn't. This actually is the only issue in this book that he does not write. Nope. This issue is written by Tom Field. Yep, Tom Field does 389. Though, is Peter David back in the next book? Yes, he is. He's back for the next book. It's a War and Peace and stuff, which I think I've covered this one already. I think I have. I just wanted to be sure about that. Because I think that was collected in the Epic collection for X Factor, the first one. Yes. So with this book in particular, I have now reviewed from issue. I basically have not gotten to issue 92. Basically, with the final book, I'm skipping with the first few issues of the book. Mm-hmm. But still, I'm still enjoying reviewing this stuff. Oh yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, that's that particular review. Oh, by the way, the book itself, I give the book roughly a 10 out of 10. The book was really good. Yep. So, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay? Next video, which will be that anime I just reviewed. Okay? Next video. Bye.